Welcome to the Trumpet of the last few days. I'm Stanley Farrar.
I'm Robert Farrar.
And I'm Joshua Farrar.
In the ever traveling saga of our modern insane world, we've discovered that the government's been lying.
Well, that's
Well,
no
at
secret.
least
Whoa.
Fauci in the government. Oh, the latest emails that have been turned over from Fauci show that that let me take and look this up just a second. That gain of function research, where they take a virus and they alter it to make it where it's dangerous to people so they can study it. That had been illegal for 3 years before Trump got elected. And Fauci and the committee, we don't know who the committee is,
Well, we
to
know two
approve
members of the
right
committee.
after Trump was elected.
We know two members of the committee because they were directly on the emails. One of which was named Kristen. I cannot remember her last name. I'll have to double check. And the other one was a Jeremy Farrar, who is, as far as I know, not a relation to us, although the name is spelled the same.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you, Robert?
No, I didn't know that.
But it comes down to they approved it. He foretold before they approved it that there'd be a pandemic during the Trump administration. He sent money to China to study the COVID virus and to do gain of function research on it and on SARS and some other dangerous viruses. All this, and the whole time he's been denying it and covering up for China and its release. Now there's just a debate on whether he can be criminally charged.
Well, he should be.
There's always going to be a debate, but nothing. Probably gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Until they start
Right
holding
now,
people like this accountable, people are going to use disasters to prop themselves up for as long as we exist.
Now Rand Paul is taking and going through and requesting him fired.
But honestly, firing him is just a slap on the wrist.
Yes, but at least it would take and get him out of positions to where he could take and shut the whole country down like he did during the Trump administration. Trump had a fatal flaw. He trusts doctors. And he assumed that doctors were in it for the best of the patients.
Trump had a couple of fatal flaws. Yes, he trusted doctors. That was one fatal flaw. Trusted them too much. And as a general rule to anyone, do not trust anyone unless you know what they want. What are they getting out of dealing with you? Once you know their motives...
And if they're political doctors...
Once you know their motives, you can reasonably determine their goal. Now, the other thing, his other fatal flaw was that he was too willing to compromise to the party.
That's true. He was very willing to, as they say that the Bush appointees that were in the State Department were some of the worst at undermining and going directly against his orders and policies.
Yeah.
While the Reagan appointees were some of the best.
There are some things you just can't compromise on.
There are a lot of things
Yeah.
that you can't compromise.
Like, right to bear arms is one of those topics you cannot compromise on. Abortion is another one. It is murder. Flat out. There is no morally justified abortion.
But
remember, though, we can't mourn Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she was just a clump of cells.
Very, very old clump of cells.
Can't mourn Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she's responsible for the murder of millions of people.
Yeah. Do you think she's tied?
Because
or do you think she beat Stalin? Or is just tied? How close do you think
I
she
don't know,
got?
I'm pretty sure abortion was rampant during Stalin, too. Population controls were very much a thing during the Soviet Union.
Yeah. But Stalin wasn't doing it for nearly as long as Ruth Bader was.
He was in for 40 years.
Yeah, and she was in for almost 60.
She wasn't that long.
You have to remember what she was doing before she was a Supreme Court justice.
She became a judge in the 70s, and in the 60s she was an advocate for feminism and leftist causes.
And that is more than 60 years right there. In fact, that's pushing 80 years.
Come on, I was born in the late 60s. I'm not 80 years old.
But will you be by the end of this decade? I'm just kidding. I know you're not.
Why? I just feel older all the time.
But from 1971 to now, or at least from June of 1971 to now, that's 50 years. And if she's been an advocate since the 60s, then that is, assuming it's early 60s, then that is rounds out to about 60 years.
Yeah, she didn't become on the. She wasn't on the bench as a judge to where she actually had control over what was accepted as law until the mid-60s, because she was put on the bench, not mid-60s, mid-70s, because she was put on the bench by Carter.
But also,
and
there is the United States has a larger population to purge than Russia did, and had a higher birth rate to murder off. So I think it's an interesting thing to look into. Did she beat Stalin's high score? I don't think she beat Mao, but did she beat Stalin?
Well,
yeah, the one-child policy alone. Which, let's go ahead and just take the segue already. The one-child policy was eliminated in 2015. Now they found, 6 years later, that two-child policy isn't working. So they've decided to adopt the radical three-child policy.
Three-child.
Now, let's put this in perspective here. Recently, a report came out on the number of births in China. And that report stated that there had been 12 million births last year. Now think about it. China has a population of 1.6 billion, I think it is. 1.6 or 1.8. and they only had 12 million births last year.
It's not enough to replenish their population. Not even close.
No.
But if you look at it statistically, after they rescinded the one-child policy and adopted the two-child policy, birth rates went up 1 year, and then continued to decline. If it had worked, then it should have birth rates should have continued going up, even if they weren't
the birth rate.
Up. Yes, it should have, theoretically. So they're not looking at the source of the problem.
One thing that they're running into with the problem is the fact that the original goal was to reduce the overall population of the country because they had too many mouths to feed. Communist countries don't produce enough food to feed their population because they are a command and control economy, and people don't work as hard or as successfully for somebody standing over them with a gun. So they found that they had to reduce the size of their population. Now they've run into the problem was they don't have enough young people to man their army to be able to to be able to fight the world.
To man their army, work their farms, work industry. Don't have enough young people for any of it.
And they haven't made a successful transition away from industry like they wanted to. Because they wanted to go into the tech field. Well, even then you need young minds to deal with the tech field.
They forget the fact
Old
that the
people
tech
don't
field
learn new
the tech field only exists as long as the industry field exists. And the industry field can only exist as long as the agricultural field exists.
Yes. And one thing they're not taking into consideration, they've got a goal to take over the world's production of semiconductors. That's a very expensive equipment and labor intensive process.
I'm not sure that they can. Because a semiconductor factory has to be 12 times more sterile than a hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It also has to, they also do one unit in this factory, and then they'll send it to another factory and do this part of it. Then they'll send it to a factory and do this part of it. And so it's not done in a single location like a normal.
If you have 4 people to direct a band with each doing a different beat of 4/4 time, are those semiconductors?
No, what you have is a cacophony.
I thought it was modern pop music.
Modern pop music always has as the computers doing it, so they use different semiconductors.
Semiconductor.
Right now, China's major goals is to increase their population to man the army, take over, corner the world's market on semiconductors, and build 1,300 new.
Scare the United States.
To scare the United States into inaction and cowardice. That's what their stated goals are.
This while we're letting South Korea build more new.
So, I postulate that we should start making nukes and loaning them to Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. And Australia, too. Australia's fine.
And the Philippines.
And the Philippines. Put some in Guam as well, but that's not really
And of
loaning
course, we
them
have
because Guam is a United States territory.
right. Guam's part of the United States, but so is the U.S. Samoa.
Hmm. Not to be confused with the
Uh,
non-U.S. Samoa.
but right, I think it's British, isn't it?
I think so.
Yes, yes it is. You've got American Samoa and and just Samoa, which is owned by Britain, or
Yeah.
it's part of the Commonwealth.
But, so we could loan them a nuke. They're strong allies. uh, thing about it is that the State Department as a whole are anti-American
Yeah.
and pro-communist.
But that's been their state for a while now.
Yeah. So it's very hard to get something through to defend us, being that they hate us.
Which is strange considering. You know, most traitors are traitors for a reason, right? Like you've got Benedict
Yes,
Arnold. He was a traitor because he lost
his
the.
wife talked him into it.
Well, his wife did talk him into it, but more specifically, he was not chosen to be the first president. That was the sort of
Well, he
inciting
wasn't
event.
chosen to be the commander in chief of the military.
Yeah, which is the first president.
Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Yeah, but he turned traitor for that reason. Most people turn traitor for money because they've run into hard times, they can't pay off their debts, and they're offered a lot of money. Some people turn traitor because they identify strongly with the country that they are turning to serve. Normally, they've got a heritage there, or they have developed a tryst with a local national. Or
Kind of like the congressman in, kind of like the congressman in California that was having an affair with the Chinese spy.
yes, exactly like that. That those are your main reasons for people turning traitor. People
And he's still in Congress, by the way.
people with a brain do not just sabotage the country they are living in because they feel like it.
Well, remember that modern studies have shown that 75% of of women on the left are mentally ill. Now, I would argue that that it's probably equally as high on men on the left.
Yeah,
The
but the
study just
study
didn't
wasn't
cover
done
that.
on the men.
Right. So if 75% of the leftists are mentally ill, they're going to do irrational things.
Yeah.
One talk show host years ago used to have T-shirts and mugs that said liberalism is a mental disorder, and it turned out he was 100% right.
I was always fond of Crowder's communism is for figs.
But the when it comes down to the actual purpose behind it, they have an agenda and they do have an affinity. Their affinity is with communism. Their purpose is to overthrow any capitalist society, including ours. despite the fact it makes no sense. But we're talking people who are the type of people that are standing on the roofs in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with AR-15s to protect their community from the police.
Which by itself isn't that bad.
Except for they're in a autonomous zone where the police don't even enter.
On its
They're
own,
not
though.
protecting it from the gang members that are doing shootouts in the street.
In a vacuum, however, with nothing else acquired, people on rooftops with guns to protect their homes from police says a lot about what they think about the police.
Yes, it does.
Their failure to use the same
And if
method on the locals who are ruining their community also says a lot about their loyalties.
But it also tells you that being the statistics show that those local gangs that are shooting up the place are far more dangerous than the police are. But they believe the police are going to come in with tanks and blast them out and and drag them off to gulags.
Have they ever heard of the ghetto concept? They wouldn't need to come in and drag them out. All they'd need to do is build a wall around.
They did that themselves.
No one comes in, no one goes out. Easy win.
Yeah, and they did it to themselves. They've already put the wall around.
Oh. I
only criminals in, only criminals out.
I kind of understand where some of them are coming from in regards to the police thing, because as an organization, I do not trust the police. I do trust specific individuals who are police, however. I don't trust large organizations, I trust individuals. And I use that as a general brush toward everything. An organization is by its nature
who enforced
corrupt. People.
Who enforced the unconstitutional lockdown orders? The police did.
The police did.
Actually, most places nobody did.
Most places nobody did. But for the places that did
I
enforce it, who did it? The police did.
It was yeah. Now, I'll admit that if you're in Minnesota or New York or California or Chicago, Illinois, you have very strong reason to believe the police are out to get you. Because the government is out to get you. Mm-hmm.
And they're agents of the government.
They're agents of the government. They don't take and hold the serve and protect mindset. It's the the orders given, you obey. Now, doesn't always go over well. Recently, I saw a couple of drunks confront and 4 armed police officers in a very hostile manner. They were in the wrong. They were violent. They were unarmed. And the only thing that kept them from being locked up is they had kids. And the police didn't want to mess with trying to find somebody to take care of their kids. But the hostility and the aggression, especially from the female member of this couple, was palpable. And I wouldn't blame any police officer for getting aggressive back. But do I trust the police? I don't trust the government.
And I don't trust most police not to do what it takes to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that the police, that there are people in the police that are upright, upstanding citizens? Yes, I do. But, and I do not believe they're hunting down minority. Statistics don't support it. More whites are killed by police than minorities any day of the week.
Well, you've heard of the phrase correlation does not equal causation.
I saw something the other day
That's true.
that amused me, and it said something along the lines of, "We really need to focus on correcting this gender discrimination within the police force. 75% of arrests are men. Clearly, they are discriminating against women."
Why are 25% of them women?
That should be 50-50. Round them up. Well, if you take and you look at a time that there's a domestic dispute, they'll arrest the man, not the woman.
Yeah. Even if the man is the one who called the police.
Yes, even if the man's the one who called the police, and even if he's the one being victimized.
Or blatantly attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And women tend to get shorter sentences than men. When they are, the times that they're convicted, which they're less likely to be convicted, they receive shorter sentences.
Yes.
And I,
Women
for one,
also
think this
take
affront on
intent to-
feminism cannot stand. Clearly it's discriminatory, and they must treat the women as equals.
I concur.
So
Around
we
the
take and
mop.
find that we all three agree with the feminist position on this subject.
Of course.
Fight for equality. Those who commit the crimes, let them be convicted.
If they commit the crime, let them do the time, no matter what their gender. Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
You do the crime, you do the time.
Well, the Democrats should have been real proud of these police officers, though, because they did not separate these children from their parents, despite their criminal activity.
I mean, did they at least do us the courtesy of putting the children in cages first? Just for a little while?
Nope. Nope.
Nope, they were
Actually, the kids are pretty good
uncaged.
kids.
You don't even have to...
And sober, the parents aren't too bad either. But
I mean,
the WHO has recently taken certified the Sinovacs for distribution in third world countries to fight COVID.
Oh
Now,
my.
is that the one developed by Sinopharm?
I think so, yes. It's and it's the one that they're having problems with China, where the people who have been inoculated with it have been going deaf, and we're talking within hours of inoculation and irreversible deafness. And it's not 1 in 1,000,000 or 1 in 1,000.
Yeah. And the
It's
WHO
like
are
one in
just
10.
turning a deaf ear to it.
Yeah, and a blind eye. But as far as
Definitely needs to be
who's
addressed.
concerned, they as far as they're concerned, if China does it, they can do no wrong because China pays their
Remember, it's all
bills.
just a matter of who, and we know that they're corrupt.
And have been for years. They're a lot like Fauci, though.
Yeah.
They're determined to, no matter what the evidence, they've got to take and defend China from investigation, so that nobody knows that China is actually committing germ warfare.
Well, clearly, if you were to look at the motivations behind it all, it's because if people started investigating China, suddenly they would be in the hot seat. They'd be incriminated.
Mm-hmm.
Because who put the head of the WHO on the board? China is the one who put him where he's at.
They're also what put most of the people on the board in the first place.
We have biological attacks from China. We have threats of physical attacks from China. We have technological thefts from China. We have of spying done by China. And now Russia's starting to raise their head again.
Yeah, these hacks from Russia, and I'm not talking about their political performance. Now, is it JBS or JVS? I never can quite hear it right.
I think it's JBS, but I'm not positive.
Anyway, the world's largest meat processor was recently subjected to a Colonial Pipeline style hack. Who would have thought? We all thought that the Colonial Pipeline hack was ridiculous.
Now they just wanted to go out and meet people.
Which is one of the reasons why I think
maybe they were holding meetings at the
for
time.
beef packers.
They really had beef with this company.
Yes.
It just
They've
didn't
attacked
meet the standards.
they've taken and attacked the leading beef packer. They've attacked the second largest pork packer, and they've attacked the second largest chicken packer.
They wanted to get everyone with a stake in the industry.
But this is exactly why you back. This is I have no idea what these companies are doing. This makes zero sense. This ransomware shouldn't work if they had their ducks in a row.
And if anyone should have their ducks
if they
in a
had
row,
everything backed up, all they would.
Exactly. Right. You back up your information. You back up your
But
information.
all they'd have to
Somebody
do,
hits you with a ransomware attack. You go back to your backups. Easy.
Well, not
you
that
take and
easy.
reformat the
It
drives,
depends
put
on what
in
they hack.
the
If they're hacking the machinery, then you're fine. You're good. If they hack your database that maintains your employee records and their social security numbers and their direct deposit numbers, then you've got problems. You got real problems then.
well,
Then
that
maybe companies should go
what they
back
hacked
to
was
the
the computer.
paper days.
Thing about what they hacked was the computer that controls those sales and distribution.
Which should have been backed up.
Yeah, that should have been backed up. That's not even really a
But-
ransomware thing at that point.
But
You just cut it off from the network. You do the backup. You change your passwords. You reconnect it to the network, and you're fine. They rehack you. Your old
And then
backups
maybe
are
start
still
adding some
good.
encryption.
Just disconnect it from the network again. Redo your backups and keep it disconnected from the network for a while. Or better yet, don't put your things on the network.
Yeah.
You don't need everything attached to the World Wide Web to be effective in the modern day and age. You don't need it. A local area network works just fine.
well, I can understand why they would take and have a method of sales coming in through the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But there should be a separation from that input to the main computers.
Yeah.
And it should be encrypted.
Now, for the
Oh,
audience,
definitely be encrypted.
there
There's no
is
doubt
a
about it.
reason why every software expert you will ever meet uses mechanical locks.
Yeah,
There
they
are
don't trust people not to hack them.
there are some things that just don't need to be on a network. Your locks, your fridge, your toaster are all some of those things. And your accounting
And they want to
computer.
put your fridge on the network.
I don't like the idea of having your lights on a network
In
or
fact,
your air conditioning.
interestingly enough, there was a major hack a few years ago to a casino. Do you know how they hacked it?
No.
No.
They accessed the network through a thermometer in a fish tank that was attached to the network. It was the only thing not password protected, and that's how they got in. When really, they could have
Found a
just
back
sent
door.
one of their many staff around to check it every few hours.
Or not had a fish tank.
You could have it electronically controlled and just not have it hooked to the network.
Yeah. Just make it beep if ever it gets out of tolerance. You don't need the network for that. Don't need a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth signal. Don't need a signal at all.
Well, you've got all these electronic home assistants that they're pushing right now. Turn your lights on and turn your lights off, to take and lock and unlock your doors, to take and yeah, like the clapper, except for they're more advanced. They turn on your TV. They'll change your channels. They'll take and
you got a push button. It's not a mechanical lockout anymore. It's a
oh, I hate that.
Yeah, I hate it too. I will never buy a car
You know, you can take
that you can just press a button to start.
Yeah. Most of these guys don't realize that you can take a laptop and and access the Wi-Fi on their fancy a push button car and unlock their car, start it, and even program it to run with your laptop.
And funny thing is, you don't even have to have the skill required to hack it. You can just download someone else's program to do it for you. At least with hot wiring, the
Yeah.
guy requires to it has to be in your car and has to have the skill to do it. Hacking doesn't require that skill, as long as you have someone else's program who had that skill.
The thing about hot wiring is that you can't turn the car off without cutting the wire.
Well, you don't really need to cut the wires. You just need to pull them apart. If you welded the wires together in your process of hot wiring, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. But it's not an easy. It does require some skill.
Yeah.
Actually, modern cars, you're not going to hotwire because it requires the chip, the key to before it'll let you run it.
Robert, your screen is really
But
bugged out. For me.
Not on my screen. Not on my screen.
For me, you've
But-
got like
I
a
think it just looks
green
normal.
digital band across your face as if it's censored out that goes from edge to edge, and it looks like you are just eternally scratching your shoulder.
I have no idea why it looks like I'm eternally scratching my shoulder. Though I did just scratch my shoulder recently.
Yeah.
As for the green band, nobody's allowed to know my identity. Didn't you know?
Think about it. In the movies, they like showing you them take and twist two wires together and then touch it with a third wire to start it.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
You know that would work. That actually would work on a 1950s model or 1960s model automobile.
Well, if you had the right wires. But even then, you're more likely to shock yourself
Yeah.
with the way they show
But
them
if
doing
you
it.
take, yeah, it'd be much easier just to take a bolt puller, put it into the ignition with a slide hammer, pop the ignition out of the steering column, remove the locking mechanism, and put it back together and turn a screwdriver. It'll start right up. With now that can't be taken and done on a one that requires a chip, but it's still very simple and a lot simpler, and that's the way car thieves actually do it.
Yes, but once again, that requires the
Unless it's
knowledge of how to do it, the knowledge of what wires, of what to work with, of what to remove to get it to function, and it requires the base skill to do it without breaking everything. It requires a degree of finesse. Yes, people have those skills. Yes, people can do them, but you're a lot less likely to find someone with that specific skill set than you are to find someone who can download a program that will turn your car on.
Yeah, that's true. The electronic ones you could take and download, and they'd be much easier to steal.
Ah, Robert's back to normal. Or
Oh,
the artist formerly known as Robert.
I thought I told you no one's allowed to know my identity.
Now the Florida has been doing some interesting things lately.
Flow rider?
They've
Yeah.
been doing a lot of interesting things lately.
They're
Just not
currently suing the
same
CDC.
newsworthy stuff.
They're suing the CDC. They're being sued by all the major tech companies, and they also have banned transgenders
Men from participating
from
as women.
participating in school sports outside of their biological gender.
I think they've also done the voting laws. most Republican states have done that.
They did it first. They did it before the election because of all the trouble they had with the Bush Gore.
Texas is still up on the verge of getting out there, but it hasn't passed yet.
How has the Arizona revote been going, by the way? Or is that's still in progress?
It's still in progress.
It's still in progress.
They're still counting.
Not much has happened.
They've already taken. They've already decertified all the machines and said they can't be used again.
But that one's a little difficult because you have to get past all the conspiracy theories, get to what's actually happening.
So I learned another thing recently.
Yeah.
But apparently, a certification and a certificate are two different things.
Are they?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
So, apparently, a certification requires a demonstration of skill, while a certificate just requires you to take a course.
See, it should be the same. The certificate should verify that you've certified.
Well, a certificate should be an indication of a certification, but it's not. They're two different things. And I didn't know this before I had to take a course on it and get a certificate for it.
Hey, when you are certified, normally you do get a certificate. But they took the people in charge of elections in Arizona declared that the machines are no longer certified. They're running into too many problems with them, and they said they cannot take and use them for another election. They're banned, Arizona. So
Arizona's in political civil war, right?
Yes, they are.
Because you've got a Republican majority in the legislature, and you've got a Democrat governor.
Now
they tried to do a voting rights bill as well, and it just got vetoed. Big surprise.
In Texas, their voting rights bill, the only reason why it won't pass is because the Democrats are pulling another one of their stunts of leaving the state, so they can't have a quorum. They walked out. No quorum.
Just do it without them.
Last time they went all the way to Oklahoma.
Why would they go to hostile territory?
I'm not sure, but
casinos.
But they were out of state, so they couldn't be forced to return.
Casinos.
I mean, theoretically, in most states, you can do a vote without a quorum under specific circumstances, so they may be able to override the walkout. Or the governor could just call a special session, which is what he's planning on.
That's what he's planning on doing. But, yeah, I remember that a congressperson from Houston with the last name of Farrar was one of those Democrats that went to Oklahoma.
Man, what's with all the name traders
Okay, we need to stop talking about rogue Farrars here. Come to find out that we're secretly, that they all view us as the name traders and we're just the rogue element of the Farrar family.
Oh.
Our family made its stand when we left England.
And made our way to Texas.
Well, Yeah, the thing about it, that one in Texas is not a direct relation to us. May be related to us through one of the side branches, but is not a direct line with us.
Well, the last time we looked, just about everyone else that was related to us in a direct line has been wiped out. There wasn't very many left. We were already
Not many, no.
reaching. We were already reaching when we went back to the generation that we did to find any of them still alive, just to find out that all of the branches had ended, apart from ours,
That we found.
that we
Yeah.
found.
Out of 30 kids.
Yeah.
I have taken and been notified about a Farrar in Missouri that is a direct relation to us. We know. He going back to my great grandfather. Well, my great great.
If he is a cousin of some sort, like third or fourth cousin, he's no longer a direct relation.
Oh,
The farther we go
yes,
back.
but at that point, he was in the direct line.
Yeah, but the farther we look back from where they branched off, the less they are really a direct relation. Like I said, we were already reaching.
Well, in our line. In our line, it's me and you boys. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Wow, way to include your grandchildren. Anyway, if you also happen to neglect your grandchildren, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't neglect them.
But it's just about time for us to wrap this video up. But if you liked this episode, feel free to hit the like button, leave a comment down in the comment section below, and share this with your friends and enemies, whatever you feel like doing.
And your
Till then, see you next time.
grandchildren.